Hey everyone, welcome to the Compassion and Courage podcast. I'm Marcus Engel. This is the podcast where I teach compassionate communication, provide perspective, and inspire resilience. In the studio today with me is the hotness.
Good day, and boy, that's a mouthful.
Which part?
The whole spiel.
The whole spiel? Yeah, it's one of those things that I should probably learn how to do in my sleep.
You might already do it in your
sleep.
I don't know.
So we've been seeing some good traction putting part of the podcast out on Facebook. And then a lot of people say, hey, how do I listen to the whole thing? So we thought today that we would give a little lesson that can be used as a tutorial and a guide for how to listen to podcasts. Cool.
How to listen to getting your podcast groove on.
Yeah. See, why do you make it sound all nice? I'm like technical, and you're like using.
Find your groove.
I guess it's because you're a writer, and
yeah, maybe that's it.
Maybe that's it. All right. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to your handy dandy smartphone, and if you are an Apple iPhone user, you have a phone here, Vanna. All right. So you've got your handy dandy Apple phone here. And podcast player is built in, comes standard on your iPhone.
Let me find mine.
So simply...
I didn't know we were going to do this, so...
That's okay.
Podcast. It's purple.
Podcast.
And with an iPhone. It's purple and has white things. I'm afraid to open mine because I'm seeing... Oh, well, look what opened. The Compassion and Courage.
Wow, so that's pretty surprising.
Yeah.
So you're just going to open up that app. There's a search bar. You can either search Compassion and Courage, or you can search Marcus Engel. Either one of them is going to bring you right to the Compassion and Courage podcast page. And from there, you can download all of the full-length episodes, all the interviews, all the times with the hotness here and I in the studio, solo times with me just rapping about stuff, not actually wiki scratch rapping, but talking.
Because you're so good at that.
Because yeah, you know me, DJ Marcus.
But all your amazing guests, and you have had some of the most incredible guests.
We have interviewed in the last couple of weeks people for upcoming podcasts that are quality, really strong interviews about compassion, about some heartening things. That's not the word. What's the
heart-wrenching?
Heart-wrenching. There were a few of those stories in there too. Some heart-wrenching, and then some like soul-fulfilling stories too.
Yes, some of these have just left in the studio here, just recording them, and some have been played recently. Have left me absolutely in tears because I sit in the studio and run some little tech stuff and pretend to be, a whatever technical person, but have absolutely left me in tears hearing you interview these people. Just absolutely worth listening to.
Yeah.
Go find this and go back and listen to these. It is absolutely worth your time. The link is here too, that you can click, and it will take you to how to do this. The instructions are here in the show notes that will help you, because I hear you on the phone regularly, answering the phone, and giving these
telling
instructions.
People how to find it, yeah.
Because before I first did it, I didn't know how. You've been listening to podcasts a long time.
I've been listening to podcasts for a long time, so I was already familiar with the podcast player. I'm not an Android user, so I don't know how to tell you Droid folks how to find it, but I'm sure that there's a podcast player that comes standard on the Android too.
And there's Spotify. There's many different ways, and they all function the same way.
Yeah.
Buzzsprout, I think, is where you go to choose your favorite player for podcasts.
So, it seems like if you can find the podcast app, you can open it up, search either Marcus Engel or search Compassion and Courage. You will find it pretty quickly. We would love it if when you do, you would hit the subscribe button. If you want to leave a review, that would be super greatly appreciated too. Reviews, ratings, subscribing, sharing, all of those things are ways that we can get the message out even more, and also help get those numbers up.
And how do you become a habitual podcast user, because up until it's only been in the last, probably year and a half that I started listening to podcasts. Now, like I said, I know you've listened to podcasts for many, many years. It's been newer to me, and I'll tell you how I've started doing it. But how?
Go ahead.
Well, I started doing it when I started at a beauty salon, when I had to sit for a while. And I first found a podcast, stuck my ear pods in, and just started listening that way, and then got a little addicted. Got habitual. Then I started after that. So when I had to sit, I started doing that. And then it was like, oh, this is what everyone was talking about. This is really fun. Then I started doing it in the car. I know people do it when they work out and when they exercise. I don't do enough of that for it to be a habit. Sorry, telling the truth. But once you get in the rhythm of it, it becomes very joyful. We sometimes do it at night. We'll sit and listen to a podcast together, or when we're in the car together. But if you make a time that you do it and it becomes part of your routine, then once you've subscribed, it pops up on your phone. Hey, your favorite podcaster put out a new episode of something. Then it just becomes part of your habit. And it's really great. What makes you do it? How do you do it different?
Well, I guess I started listening to podcasts even before there was an iPhone. Whenever we first got married and I relocated from St. Louis to Orlando, I missed a lot of my St. Louis radio stations, right? I've been a big fan of talk radio for years, and I missed some of my favorite radio personalities, and so I would go out and actually, boy, this is telling you how old I am. I would go out, get them off of the net, and put them onto an SD card, transfer them over, then put them into a specialized player that was for blind people called the Victor Reader Stream. This is before the days of iPhones and being able to do it seamlessly. And so whenever I first started listening to podcasts, I just wanted to listen to the stuff that I wasn't able to get in real time, and being away from another location. So I was basically just taking things from different radio shows. It wasn't until a couple of years later that I started getting into different podcasters. These are people who did not have a platform for their message prior to podcasting, and then have just taken their message, their mission, whatever their story is, and run with it. And some people have built up tens of millions of followers just by following their passion. So I listen to a lot of podcasts. I probably spend 3 or 4 hours a week listening to podcasts. How long do you listen to podcasts in general?
Maybe an hour or so a week. Probably not as long as you do, because I read a lot as well. I'm a big reader, and you used to have to put a lot of work into podcasts, a lot. Now it is so simple, and it was overwhelming at first. I didn't know how to find a podcast that I wanted to listen to. I did it when one of my favorite musicians started a podcast. So I went and sought them out, and that was how I first decided what podcast to listen to. But it can be overwhelming. But if you use the podcast app, besides, of course, you're going to want to listen to hours. But besides that one, they have a search button. And when you search, it comes up in categories if you don't know who to listen to. And then you can just search a category that interests you. And I started out by searching the top charts. I thought, well, if it's popular, it may be good. And that was a fun way to start. And then you can search by categories, because they have a way to search for what your interests are. And that was really fun to search for, self-improvement, or I have a totally guilty pleasure.
I have plenty of guilty. Or do you mean a podcast that's a guilty pleasure?
I have a podcast category that's a completely guilty pleasure.
Which one is that? Oh, superheroes?
Well,
Marvel?
I do love all the geek stuff, but I was referring to murder shows,
Yeah,
true crime,
yeah.
and that. Yeah, I spend probably once a month. I probably listen to an hour's worth of true crime. Do you listen to those?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
but we
do.
don't like to talk about it, right? Because
No.
we put on a show called Compassion and Courage, and
Right, that's true.
not a show called Slash and Burn. But nonetheless, I don't know. I it's my criminology background coming out, but I find it fascinating. And but I listen to a bunch of personal development. I listen to several shows about health. I listen to a lot of radio documentaries too, where it's almost
Absolutely.
investigative reporting, able to uncover. I mean, we just have, when you have so many people who are podcasters, you can just have so many more stories, so much more content. Anybody who has a platform and a podcast and a passion can be out there, and you will find a podcast that you will love.
Absolutely. That makes your home life better.
Yeah.
That makes you a better parent.
Especially when it's a murder show podcast.
It's
But
the
yeah.
nurse in me.
You're a nurse?
The wannabe nurse.
The wannabe nurse,
I went
yeah.
to nursing school. Come on.
You did. But so I hope that this gives you a little bit of an idea of how to go out, search out your podcast, and then subscribe and share and rate and review, all those things. One of my other guilty pleasures.
What's that?
It's kind of goofy. Okay, there's a show that's called Anything Ghost, and it's just people writing in about their paranormal experiences, and then the host of the show is just some dude reading them. It's nothing fancy, but I like it. I like it. I'm a weirdo, I know.
Well, we're telling our weirdo stuff, I guess. So it can absolutely meet any of your thing, whether it's home improvement or decorating or taking care of your kids or living on a budget. Everything. And of course, compassion and courage. Subscribe to that first. We know you will. We know you will. So that's how to find us. Follow the link. That'll help you get there too. And invite your friends. We'd love to have you back.
Please, thank you. If you get something out of the podcast, please share those with your friends, with your family. We're really just trying to make the world a better place by sharing these stories of compassion, these perspectives, and then hopefully these conversations with healthcare professionals. If you're a healthcare professional, hopefully these give you that kind of belly fire of empathy to want to improve your own communication with patients and stay connected to your own why, the reason that you got into this work in the first place. So,
And thank you to Jean who asked us to talk about this.
yes,
today.
absolutely. Thank you. So thank you all for being with us. This is Compassion and Courage, Conversations in Healthcare. I'm your host, Marcus Engel, and my hostess is
The hotness.
Marveline Engel.
Did I just say that out loud?
Did you say it out loud? Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, a little arrogant there on your part. I guess when you've heard it for 15 years.
Yeah, thank you.
So I want to thank everybody again. This is the podcast where we teach compassionate communication, provide perspective, and inspire resilience.